I was the founding chairman of the Care Not Killing Alliance when I was a member of Parliament for Bolton South East, and I retired in 2010 because I was approaching 70 at that time, so I thought it was time to pack up being an MP. And I thought I was going to have a quiet life, but here I am again, and I'm presently the acting chairman of the Care Not Killing Alliance. I just want to say a few words of introduction before I invite the first of our distinguished line of speakers to come up and address us. Obviously, the opponents of dignity in dying are going to go into a difficult period from tomorrow onwards. We've been through all this with Lord Joffe before, and that's why Care Not Killing Alliance was set up, to oppose Lord Joffe's bills. He had 3 attempts and was quite heavily defeated on the 3rd attempt in the House of Lords. But there's been a lot of movement since then. Dignity in dying continue to soften the language. They continue to find harder and harder cases to bring before the general public on radio, television, and throughout the press and media in general. And we all know the names of the people that they've, I think I can use the word used, to promote their debate. Unfortunately, we can't, and I don't think we want to act in that way, quite frankly. We want to put the force of our message across to the general public, because I think we have a very forceful message. Dignity in Dying, of course, claim that they have 80% of the general public on their side. Now, they may well claim that, but I go around speaking. I was speaking in my hometown of Bolton recently to an audience. I was speaking in the Wirral about a month before that on this subject of euthanasia and assisted dying, the debate in general. And I find when I talk to audiences who are not in the know at all, unlike many of you in the audience this afternoon, I find that people really don't know the full facts. And when they find out the full facts associated with assisted dying and euthanasia, they begin to think again. And last Sunday, I broadcasted on 11 regional channels across England, and I had a rabbi facing me representing dignity in dying. And I got the feeling by the time we'd done 2 hours of broadcasting across the land that the rabbi might have changed his mind back again, because he was a convert from our way of thinking to the way of thinking of dignity in dying. And he was quite confused in some respects. He thought that Tony Nicholson was at some stage was really asking for his dying to be assisted. Well, of course, the Nicholson case, which is in court this week, I think, is a very different case than the ones we've been opposing up to now, Care Not Killing Alliance have. What Tony Nicholson and the Martin case are trying to do is to change the law on murder, to allow a doctor essentially to murder them out of necessity. Well, that would be a very dangerous change in the law, and I can't see it happening. The government are vigorously opposing both of these cases in court, and so are we, by the way, as well. And that brings me to another point. Dignity in Dying are amazingly successful at raising money. If you look at companies' house records, currently they're raising around £1 million per year. I think 60% of that is coming in by way of people who have died, leaving them large sums of money, and the rest they have to raise, like we have to raise money. Now, by comparison, that £1 million buys a lot of publicity for them out there. It buys them a lot of literature. It buys them a lot of time in the media. And they're very, very active. They have a large office with quite a lot of staff. By comparison, we are very lucky if we can raise £100,000 in a year, and we have 1 member of staff, and the rest of us in the Care Not Killing Alliance are volunteers, and we pay our own way. We don't even claim expenses. But if anybody knows of anyone who can donate money to the Care Not Killing Alliance, we would be very grateful to know who they are. And indeed, if you yourselves want to donate anonymously, please get in touch with us, because we are desperately short of money. And we're going to need a lot of money in the next few months, because tomorrow Dignity in Dying are having a huge rally here in London to lobby members of Parliament who might be wavering or who they can turn in their direction. And they're going to launch, undoubtedly during the next 20 weeks, in fact they're launching I think tomorrow, a draft bill. And I found a copy of it here on the table. There is another draft bill already ready. And they're going to spend 20 weeks going out to the general public and consulting about this bill. I haven't had enough intelligence yet to know how they're going to introduce it, or indeed whether they're going to introduce it in the House of Commons or in the House of Lords, but we have some parliamentarians here who may have more intelligence on this matter than myself. Now, whenever I appear in front of an audience like this, especially on a television or radio program, people say, isn't the law a bit too hard? You know, there are some very hard cases. Well, the old cliche still is true that hard cases make bad law. And we certainly shouldn't change the law in the major way that Dignity in Dying are asking Parliament to do, because they keep finding extremely hard cases. I know that there are many heartbreaking cases, and Tony Nicholson is certainly one of them. But remember, even Lord Faulkner, who went to see Tony Nicholson, couldn't agree with his request to change the law on murder. So thank goodness for that. But of course, it's Lord Faulkner who is pressing to change the law on assisted suicide. And the law has a hard face of necessity, because part of its purpose is to deter people from helping others to die, whether for compassionate or even self-motivated reasons. And it provides a protection for vulnerable people. And that's the way we want the law to stay. And I hope that you will vigorously, all of you, and all of your friends, colleagues, whoever, will work with us during the next few months to make sure that if this bill comes before Parliament in this session, and even if it comes before Parliament in a future session, that we can defeat this as we have defeated Lord Joffe in the past. Frankly, I'm surprised that Richard Ottaway is not presenting this bill in the Commons, because he led the debate, of course, the first debate for over 40 years since the Suicide Act. Now, the first major debate on the floor of the House of Commons on euthanasia since that Suicide Act was passed in '61. Now, what irritates me about Dignity in Dying most, apart from the issue itself, okay, they've started to use Parliament now, but in the past they've been softening up Parliament, and I think they're still trying to soften up Parliament, because Parliament change, particularly the House of Commons changes. Huge number of new members of Parliament are in the present session of Parliament. We have one of them here to speak to you this afternoon. And they keep softening the language. Remember, this is the old Voluntary Euthanasia Society. They don't use the word euthanasia anymore. They don't even use assisted suicide anymore. They soften their language all the time, and it's now assisted dying. And it was Crispin Blunt, actually, I discovered in a debate that I put down in the House of Commons on euthanasia. He admitted during that debate that he was the one that had advised Dignity in Dying to become just that, and to get rid of Voluntary Euthanasia Society, in the hope that more people would join them and more people would promote what they want to do. Well, enough of me. We're going to hear a lot about the debate now from our speakers. And the first speaker we have this afternoon needs no introduction from me. He is a former Member of Parliament of the House of Commons, but he's now in the House of Peers, David Holton.